Hey everyone, welcome to this session. So this session is both in the YouTube live and in the webinar. Okay, so we'll be doing it together. So first, let's start off with the agenda before moving on with what we'll be learning in the session. So first, this session is on deploy SQL database in Azure. So there is a service called SQL Databases, which is available in the Microsoft Azure cloud platform, which we'll be using to deploy an SQL database. So this is a very simple task, but while doing it, I'll be explaining the various components of SQL databases. And also before doing that, let me give you a brief introduction to Azure. So first, let's look into what is Azure, then what are the major companies which are using Azure, and we'll look into few of these services in Azure and the pricing of Azure. And in the few of these services, we'll be looking into one, which is SQL databases, and then Azure hands-on, in which we'll be deploying an SQL database on the Azure cloud. Once that is done, I'll be showing you how you can get started with your Azure career, how you can basically proceed by learning and then getting a certification and then trying for a job and all that. So we'll be looking into that. So first, let's start off with what is Azure. Okay, so Azure is a cloud provider owned by Microsoft, which provides its users wide range of services via internet. A cloud provider is basically a company which has a data center in various locations, and they're providing you the services which they have for you, which you can use remotely. You just have to pay for the services which you have used. For example, let's say Azure has an architecture, and inside that particular data center there are like thousands of servers. So each thousands of servers can handle let's say in one server it can handle around 1000 virtual machines, and so 1000 into 1000. Okay, so I'm just giving you an example. So let's consider one particular hardware, one particular one particular hardware in which we are hosting thousands of virtual machines. So now, if there are thousands of virtual machines which can be hosted in one physical server, in that case you can basically rent it out for more money. So that's the basic idea of how these cloud companies work. So they have a lot of resources, they have a lot of hardware, and they're giving you one small part of it for a particular amount of money. For example, they don't get that much it is very inexpensive for them to give those services to you, because every single day there are more than 10 to 20 million servers which are running on their cloud, and your server, which is only one server, will not even cost them a lot of money. So that's why they are very profitable. So now Azure is a cloud provider owned by Microsoft, which provides its wide range of services via the internet. So if I launch this particular SQL database, I'll be able to access this database using the configuration settings which they provide me, and using that I can log into that database using the internet. So they're giving you a service to which you have remote access, and you can use those settings, for example the endpoint, your username and password, to log into the database from your own PC, but the database is not running in your PC, it is running in the cloud architecture. A few of the let's say these are some of the advantages, and these are some of the facts about Azure. They started in February 1st 2010, and then widely recognized by more than 90% of Fortune 500 companies. And companies like, let's say, even Microsoft uses Azure, because Azure is Microsoft's own cloud provider. And there are other cloud companies which we'll be looking into later. And then cost effective. To start off with Azure, it's completely free. They give you a lot of credits which you can use to start, and again that we'll look into later. Also offers a pay-per-use pricing model. That basically means if you're using only one server for 2 hours, you only pay for the 2 hours. You're not paying them for creating the server or deleting the server. Even if you stop the server, you're not paying for them. Only if the server is running, you will pay for them. So it basically means you're only paying for what you use. And then comes language support. Supports multiple languages such as C#, Node.js, Java, and more. And you can basically download SDKs for Azure in any language which you want, and you can basically embed the Azure part of your application into the code itself. For example, you can create a server from the code. You can upload content into Azure Blob Storage from the code. So you can use all that using the language support, that is SDKs. And also availability zones. There are 54 different regions in which Azure data centers are available. This is the highest in any cloud provider, even though AWS is number one. But in terms of data centers available in various geographical regions, Azure is the number one in that. So these are the regions. So you can see there are 54 regions worldwide, and it's available in 140 countries. Okay, you can see here it's in US. There is a lot of so there is West US, there is South Central US, Central US, North Central US. So there are a lot of data centers in the US. There is 1 and 2 in Canada, which is Canada East and Canada Central, and over here it's in Europe. And then in Africa, there is South Africa North, South Africa West, Brazil South, Australia, and also India and UAE. And this basically means the dotted circle means they are coming, but right now these are available. And then over here, so other Asian countries like Korea, China. Okay, so these are the number of geographical regions in which Azure data centers are available. So that basically means you can sit at one country, let's say India, and you can launch a server in US, and you can basically run your application in the US market, and you can earn money. So the same thing goes with an application which has been created in the US. It can be hosted in an European data center for their market, or in an Indian data center for that market. So basically means there will be a faster access than accessing a server which is so far away. Okay, so now let's look into companies who use Azure. So as we told you, 95% of Fortune 500 companies use Azure for their business needs. So some of the companies are obviously Microsoft, then BMW, LinkedIn, Samsung, Xerox, Lufthansa, Toyota, and Honeywell uses Microsoft. So there are a lot of opportunities if you learn Azure, because so many companies use Azure for their cloud needs. And if you learn Azure cloud, you can basically apply in any of those companies, and if you have enough skills, and you can basically get into it. Now let's look into the services. So these are the 3 services which we'll be looking into. I'll give you a basic idea, and then let's go on with SQL. So first, virtual machine. So virtual machine is the integral part of any cloud provider. So even in Azure, virtual machine is the most integral part, because you can launch servers. You can launch servers of Windows, Linux, or whatever operating system you need. And basically, virtual machines are the backbone of Azure or any cloud provider. Using servers, you can launch web servers, you can launch database servers, you can just use it as a normal PC or whatever you want. So every single capability is available in virtual machines, and it is an infrastructure as a service offering. Then coming to SQL databases, fully managed database, automates updates, provisioning, and backups, so you can focus on application development. So SQL databases is a service provided by Azure, so that you can just work on your application development, so that you can it doesn't take much time to create an SQL database on Azure. You can create it, connect it with your code in you can just take 10 to 20 seconds, because Azure will give you the endpoint, which you can just copy it and paste it in your code. Azure will give you all the information you need, and you can just use it as it is. You don't need to configure anything. You just have to do the normal things, for example, creating a database, uploading data if you need, and making all that setup. So that is more than enough to use Azure SQL databases. It's the same as how you use a local database, for example, a local MySQL database or a local MS SQL server. To put it simply, SQL databases are again an integral part of Azure, because it's completely managed by Azure themselves. You can launch an SQL database, use it for your own application, but the updates, the provisioning of the database, the backups are also automatic. So you can just work on your application, make it even better, and you don't need to worry about the infrastructure part of your application. Databases are available, virtual machines are available to host your application. Also, if you want to store images, videos, you have blob storage. So Azure Blob is an object type storage in Azure. It is used for large amounts of storage. So there is a typo here. So it's Azure Blob storage, and it is used for storing large amounts of structured or unstructured data. So basically, blob in the sense binary large objects. In this case, these are binary files which can be like a huge object as well. For example, it can be audio, video files, it can be images, it can be documents, it can be any binary file. Okay, so these are the major services in Azure, and in this particular session we'll be looking into SQL databases. Now let's just I'll give you a basic introduction about how you can start off with Azure, because most of you might know, most of you might have an account in Azure, but some of you might not have. You might have confusions of whether it will cost me money or not. So basically it doesn't cost you money if you start off with Azure, because when you create an Azure account, you get 12 months of popular free services. You get 13,300 credit to explore any Azure service for 30 days. So they have 100 plus services. You can use any service you want for free for 30 days within the 13,300 rupees credit limit. Also, if you're from any other country, it's $100. $100 is not actually equal to this money, but according to the exchange rate, it's not. But actually, this is the credit they provide in INR. If it is from USA, it's around $100, and I think if you're from a European country, it'll be similar to the exchange rate of $100. And then always free, 25 plus services. So there are 25 plus services with one particular aspect or one particular configuration free forever. So for example, even in virtual machines, there is an instance type called PS1, and if you're using that particular instance type, it is always free for you. Okay, so we've seen this and few examples of free services you can see. So let's just ignore that because our concentration is on SQL databases. So SQL databases, they give you 250 GB of free storage, and this is per month. So every month you can store 250 GB, and if it goes beyond 250 GB, it will cost you. So your database should always have less than 250 GB of data or equal to 250 GB. So if your application is a small one, if it is in a small scale operation, then you can use an SQL database for free. Because if your application's data does not go above 250 GB, then you can basically use it for free for 12 months, and you don't need to pay any money for having a database hosted on the cloud. Okay, so this is one of the examples which I wanted to show for free services. Okay, so now we've come to the actual part of this particular session, that is the hands-on of creating an SQL database or deploying an SQL database on the Azure cloud. So let's open the Azure portal. Yeah, it's over here. Okay, so you can see it over here. I think this is how the dashboard looks. Say SQL databases, all resources, and sorry, these virtual machines, virtual networks. So these are the various services. So let's just concentrate on SQL databases. So let me go into SQL databases. So right now I don't have any database, I don't have any server, I don't have anything. So we'll have to create a new one. We click on add, and the subscription for this particular account is pay as you go. So right now I don't have any resource group, so I'll have to create one. So if you might ask, what is a resource group? It's basically a logical group in which you can put certain services, so that you can basically delete the resource group and delete all of those services together. For example, you can create a resource group called my application, and let's say your application is using 5 virtual machines, 2 SQL databases, and 1 storage account. You can put all of that into one resource group, and basically you will know that resource group has all the resources which is actually adjacent to the application, which hosts the application's code, which has the application's data. So it's basically to differentiate between multiple services. It's just a logical folder. Okay, so I'm going to name it as YouTube demo, and then coming down, so I don't have any database server. First, let's provide a database name. I'm going to provide db1, and I don't have any server right now, so let's create a new one. First, provide a name. I'm going to provide it as db server 1. So basically this particular name should be unique because it's a url.database.windows.net. So I'm going to provide YouTube, or I'll just provide Intellipaat, so I don't think this is used. Yes, so Intellipaat.database.windows.net, and then My server login is going to be admin. I don't think I can use this. I'm going to provide admin. Okay, so password is admin123, capital A, okay. So it's admin123, but my the first letter A is caps. I'm just going to leave it at US East US, so I'm not going to change it. So now I've created a server. So my database will have a URL of intellipaat.database.windows.net. Okay, so now want to use SQL Elastic Pool. So basically, SQL Elastic Pool is a service which clubs together multiple. Sorry, I'll just close this. Which clubs together multiple databases, and we are just creating one database, so I don't think this is needed. So if you can look here, so Elastic Pools provide a simple and cost-effective solution for managing the performance of multiple databases within a fixed budget. But we are not creating multiple databases, we are just creating one, so we don't need Elastic Pool. But if you're using Elastic Pool, it will cost you more than just creating one single database. And I'm going to change the instance type of my database. I'm not going to use the general purpose one. Let's look for basic. Okay, so there is basic, standard, premium, and then there are vCode based options, which is this general purpose, hyperscale, business critical. So I would suggest you, if you're practicing, go for these. For example, go for basic. So it will cost you just 300 rupees per month, and if it is your first month, you already have 13,300 credits. And if you just launch it once and delete it after 1 hour of practicing, then you won't be charged this much. You'll only be charged around how much, 6 rupees or something if you're from India. So you won't be costed that much. That is the point which I'm trying to say. So I'm going to choose basic. I'm going to give just 2 GB of data, more than enough. You can see this is my basic database. Next, so we've provided the database name. We have created a server for the database which has the URL, and the URL should be unique. I don't want Elastic Pool, and provided the compute and storage. That is, it has 2 GB of storage, and we go in. So it has 2 GB of storage, and what is this? 5 DTUs. Okay. Now clicking on next, networking. Okay, so do you want no access? That basically means nobody can access this database. Only through the virtual machines you can actually access. Or do you want a public endpoint? A public endpoint in the sense anybody, I can access it, you can access it if I provide you the endpoint, and anybody can access it. Or private endpoint. So basically using the private endpoint within the virtual machine. For example, if you have an Azure virtual machine within the same virtual network, then you can access this database using the private endpoint. I'm going to go with public endpoint. Okay, so now allow Azure services and resources to access this server, and yes, why not? Other services, for example, virtual machines should be able to access my database. Anyway, we're not going to experiment that, but still, add current client IP address, no. So this basically means only me, that is only this particular PC can access, because it will take the IP address of this PC, and when I'm trying to log in, it will check whether it is the PC of my computer, and if it is the same IP address, then it will let me access it. If I'm trying to access this particular database from a different server, it won't let me. So I'm just going to provide it no. Next, additional settings. And do you want use existing data? So I don't have any existing data, so I'm going to provide sample so that there is some data within the database once we've logged in. And there is something called start free trial for advanced data security. No, I don't want advanced data security. Anyway, that's a whole different concept. We are not going to look into that. You can see get started with the 30-day free trial, and then it's 991 rupees per month. So it's around, let's say, how much is it for in dollars? It's around let's say $10, yeah. Okay. Then tags, you can provide a tag if you want to. This is just to track the database. For example, if I provide name, I'm going to provide database. So this is basically to track it. There is nothing else to this. And yeah, for example, if you are trying to access all the databases let's say you have multiple applications on Azure, and you're naming all the databases which is for your application 1 as my app 1. So in this case, you can search for this particular tag, my app 1, and you'll get all the databases with the exact same tag. So you can name multiple databases with the same tag. Okay, so review plus create, you can see the estimated cost, and you can see the server. Okay, so you can see, do you want to add current address? I said no. And then advanced data security, no. Okay, so it's done. So now let's create the database. That's it. This is the things which you'll have to do to create a SQL database on Azure. So here you can see it's getting created right now. Deployment is in progress. It will take some time to create, and let's just explore this. So this is the notification bar where you can see the whether it's running or whether it's completed and all. And okay, so you can see one resource has been done, the server has been created, but still the app database is still getting created. Let me go to the page, the home page. Let me click on SQL databases. So right now the database is still not created, but it will be created soon because it's getting created right now. Okay, so let's click here, click on deployment in progress. Okay, it's still in progress. We'll just have to wait, guys. Okay, so subscription, let's go to the resource group. I'll just tell you what is the resource group. For example, over here, once the resources gets created within this resource group, you will have all the resources over here. So let's say you want to have all the resources for your application within one particular location. You can create a resource group for that. So once you create that resource group, whenever you're creating an application, whenever you are creating a service, then while creating the service, you can provide the resource group as the resource group name which you have created for that. For example, your application needs 5 virtual machines. Your application needs around 2 SQL databases and 2 storage containers for blob. And so these are the things which your application needs. So in this case, you can store all of that in one particular resource group so that you can check out all the resources which you're using for that particular application itself. So this is the main use of resource groups. Also, you can see delete resource group is available. You can just delete all the services within it. And what else? Over here, you can add more services. You can see web app, Ubuntu server LTS. So these are the servers, SQL databases and all that. So you can add these within the group. Okay, so right now the deployment has been succeeded. Let's go to the resource and see DB1. And where is it? So over here, this is my server. So in this server, using this server, it has created us a database. So that's it, guys. This is the things which is required to basically launch your database. And over here you can see there is 11 MB of space used because I gave that sample for a data set. First, there was like, if you wanted to use any other old data which is available, I did not have any backup, and I didn't want to upload any data, so I just clicked on sample because it will just give me a sample data set within the database itself. And over here you can see all the available options which you can establish in this particular database. And coming down, activity logs, query editor, we look into query editor also something called configure. So I think this is for the cost. Yeah, okay. So then connection strings. So you can see over here, this is for ADO.NET, JDBC connector for Java, ODBC for others, PHP connection, you can see. And what else? Yeah, so this is for Go. So you can use these connection strings, guys, to basically connect with this particular database. You can see, if you take PHP, you can see the connection string is new PDO SQL server, and this is the database's address. There's the port number, database name, username, password. So everything is provided. You'll just have to use it in your application. Okay, so this you can try later. If you're using Java, you can use JDBC connectors. If you're using any other services, you can use ODBC. And then for PHP, Go. So you have all the connection strings available. You can just take it and use it. Okay, so where is query editor. So query editor, basically you can log in into the query editor, and let me just admin 123. Client with IP address is not allowed to access the server to enable use the Windows Azure management portal. So let me click on continue. Okay, so it's not taking this particular. Okay, let's set firewall role. Okay, allow AWS services and resources to access this server. Connections from the specified below provides access to all the databases in Intellipaat. So basically this IP address is provided, right? So why it's not providing? Okay, add existing virtual network, create new virtual network, add client IP. Sorry, so I've added client IP. Let's just save this. Sorry guys, so we have saved it. Let's check it. Sorry, I came back. Okay, database, query editor, logging in again. Yeah, so right now it logged in. I just added the permission to use from this particular IP address, that is my client IP. Okay, so right now we can basically run and check. So we are in the database DB, and for example, let's check show databases. So it's showing an error. Okay, I think we are inside a okay, let's check what are the tables available. Okay, so there is some sales lt.customer. So select star from sales lt.address. Okay, so this query is successful. You can see that over here. Where is that? Okay, so this is the address, and you can see all the data available in this particular database, in this particular table within this database. So I can change this to customer. Sorry, and run. Again, you can see all the data available. So basically I'm just showing you whether the data is available in my particular database which I created just now or not. So it is available. To prove that, I showed you that by querying them, because we are inside a database. So let's try if create databases will work. Create database. We are within a database, we are not outside of database. So I think let's try create database. If it doesn't work, no issues. So you can see it's running for a lot of time. I think there will be an error. The views, there are two procedures. Okay, Okay, so it's taking a lot of time. Basically, it basically says that this particular command doesn't work because we are within the database db1. So within the database, we have tables, views, and stored procedures. We can query them. We can get whatever we want out of them. For example, let's say we can edit data. You can see, let's click on that, and we can basically edit data within the database, everything from the query editor itself. And you can also connect it with a local database and then use it. But for now, I think this is more than enough to understand. So you can create a database. Once you have created a database, you can use the query editor to check whether the data is available inside it. And you have all the connection strings available needed for you. You have the JDBC, ODBC drivers. You can just use them to connect with your local clients. You can embed them in your code, and you can see you can also connect them with Visual Studio directly. You don't need to provide anything else. You can just directly connect it to Visual Studio. If you're using any, for example, C# or any code, if you're developing an application, you can directly use these databases over there. And then there's also something called Azure Data Studio. Again, you can directly connect it with that particular tool. Okay, so again, to delete this is very simple. Just click on delete, type the database name. It's going to be db1, and delete. That's it, more than enough to delete a database. And going back, so let this get deleted, no issues, guys. So now I think we've done this, and you can see it created a database, db2, because I used the query editor to create one. So I think this is where it got created, not within that database. So I'm going to delete this as well. So using the query editor, I created a database, and I created a database using the database wizard as well. So both of that is done. So right now we have successfully completed it, and both of these I have put for deleting. So these should have, yeah, so it got deleted, successfully deleted db1. I don't know why it's still showing up. Okay, so you can see the status is not available, server is not available, pricing tier is not available. Basically it's deleted, but it's just showing like that. Okay, now let's go back to the PPT. Yeah, so you've seen the hands-on. It's pretty simple to create or pretty simple to deploy an SQL application. It's pretty simple to deploy an SQL database on the Azure cloud, and it just takes a couple of minutes, and you can also do it. Now coming down, so now let's talk about how you can get started with Azure. So if you want to start off free, so there are two ways you can invest. One is your time, which you can put in, learn all of that, but it might take some more time. And the second one is money. So again, that's an investment. So first of all, there are two things which we provide to you for free. One is the Intellipaat blog, and one is the YouTube channel, in which we upload courses, which are complete courses. For example, if you take the Intellipaat blog, you can just type in intellipaat.com/blog, and you will be taken over there. You will be provided a lot of options. Select cloud, go to Microsoft Azure tutorials, learn from those tutorials, start reading from there, learn all the basics, learn how Azure works, learn about all the services. And then you can check out our YouTube channel, where we upload 10 hours or 11 hours of Azure content for free. You can just check that out. You can learn a lot of things from that. You can basically do a lot of hands-ons. We also include projects, Azure projects, and you can check all of that, and you can basically start using Azure. You can just create projects using that. But obviously everything is not available on YouTube. There are some premium tools which you will only get if you take up a course. So these are the two free options which you can take up and start learning each and every single concept in Azure. And there's a third option for you. So the third option is basically the online paid course. So in our case, we provide you a course with so many basically we provide you a course with so many advantages which will obviously help you to land a job. So you can start with the basics of Azure. and you can go up to landing a job by taking just one course. For example, I'm just going to cover this particular Azure certification master's training, and I'll be just up to the technical part of this because later my colleague will be joining, and my colleague is a senior course advisor who will be able to guide you better in a career or certification perspective. If you need any questions on if you have any questions on your career, you can ask to my colleague. If you have any questions on certifications, you can ask to my colleague. So for now, I'll just give you the basic technical part, that is what will be covered and what you will get. Okay, so first of all, these are the courses which will be covered in the Azure Master's Training. You get Solutions 104, 204, 303 and 304, Azure DevOps and Azure Data Factory. So these are the 5 online training courses, and you also get Linux, Cloud Computing and AZ900 Azure training. So AZ900 is the fundamental Azure course, and Cloud Computing, again, it's a basic fundamental course. Linux is needed because 90% of the cloud servers are running on Linux. So learning Linux, if you're trying to enter cloud, a cloud computing platform, if you're trying to enter a cloud job, obviously learning Linux will be a lot helpful. So now let's cover the key features of this course. First of all, you get 205 hours of instructor training. That basically means 205 hours you get live training in which an instructor gives you training, and also wait a second, yeah, so I wanted to show this as well. So you get 205 hours of instructor-led training. You can clear your doubts on the go, and all of our trainers are industry professionals. For example, if you're learning Microsoft Azure, our trainer is not going to be a trainer, but instead that particular person would be a professional who is working in Microsoft or other companies as an Azure Solutions Architect or an Azure Administrator, and who is also teaching you by the side, so that you will get both real-time knowledge which is happening in the industry as well as the course knowledge. Also, one more thing is we provide 8+ courses in this particular training, 15+ projects which you can add in your resume, and also 205 hours of live training. And also we are in collaboration with Microsoft, so that basically means you will get a certification from Microsoft and from us once you complete this particular master's course. Also, you get 199 hours of self-paced videos. That basically means all of these courses, even though these 5 are online courses, you will also get the recorded versions of them, so that on weekends you can take the live training, on weekdays you can practice the recorded videos. And then we also provide certification and job assistance. I'll just give the brief and my colleague will be able to explain it even better. So certification in the sense we'll provide you certifications once you've completed the course successfully. Job assistance in the sense we'll help you in resume building up till making you attend job interviews. But clearing the job interview and getting it is in your hand, because we'll help you make you enough skilled. So again, this will be covered by my colleague. And then we have a flexible schedule. You can take up the course on weekdays or you can take it on weekends. And then we have lifetime free upgrade. That basically means if you want to take up this particular course after 3 years, you can do that. You can take this course, complete this course right now, and let's say after 3 years you just want to brush up one particular module in Azure, so you can just come back, you can take another live session. So this is available for your lifetime. You can come back and take any number of live sessions like as long as you want. And we also provide 24/7 lifetime support and access, both operational and technical support. For example, if the videos are not available, if there are any other problems with this, then we'll be able to solve that, and also your technical queries. If you have any queries in Azure, if you have any queries in doing the project or any technical query, we are available 24/7. If you're working it on at 3 a.m., you can raise a ticket and we'll be able to solve you that particular ticket. So you can check this out. And then about others, my colleague will be talking. I'll just go to the course content and let me cover Azure 104. So the thing is, we'll start off with the basics. You can see that over here. We'll start off with the basics of Azure, and for each module we have hands-on exercises. First, the very basic is obviously you need a Microsoft account. So from creating a Microsoft account till for example, creating an app service for web app for containers and VNet creation. And once all that is done, finally you get projects. So you can see implementing a new architecture to the company's website based on requirements given for application gateway, storage accounts, and configuring traffic manager for the same. So basically, you will be creating an architecture in which you're going to host an application which should basically solve all the requirements provided by the client, so that this particular website should be implemented on Azure, which should have application gateway for APIs, which should have storage accounts for storing data, and also traffic manager, so that we can basically manage the incoming workload or the incoming traffic. For example, if the traffic goes high, the number of servers should also increase. If the traffic goes down, the number of servers should also go down. So this is one of the project. I'm just explaining it to you. So you will be able to do this once you completed this course. Building a dashboard to monitor your company's website. So basically this is a monitoring project. So this will be done. And then case studies. So again, coming down, and there are other projects in every other course. For example, in 204, so you can see deploying an industry scale application in Azure App Services using the custom containers. So again, these are you will have separate projects in each and every course in this. You will also have a project in Azure DevOps. You will have a project in Azure 303, 304 training. So every single course has a project. So once that is done, you will be able to clear all these certifications. So AZ 104, AZ 204, AZ 303, and 304, you will be able to complete all of these certifications, because all of the content which is required to pass these will be covered in this one particular course. Coming down, so our course completion certificate is basically recognized by 80 plus MNCs from Ericsson, Cisco, Cognizant, Sony, and many more. So these are the two certifications which you'll be getting. One is from us, that is a course completion certificate. One is from Microsoft, which is a partner network certificate, because this particular course is in collaboration with Microsoft, and you'll get the benefits of, for example, you'll get the benefits of having a Microsoft certificate, which you can use in your resume to add more value. So these are the features which I wanted to show it to you guys. Okay, so now let me go back to these slides and let me hand over this session to my colleagues, and from here on my colleague will be taking it on. So thank you, meet you in another session.